everyone, Joe here from ActionX. Welcome to What's in the Tube, once again back in audio form. That's right, if you watched us, or heard us more specifically in our last What's in the Tube episode, which we reviewed Walker episode 3, we had some difficulties with, not difficulties, I screwed up and I messed up the audio recording. For this episode, it's another audio episode because this is recorded during Super Bowl weekend. My setup is currently occupado, so I was unable to do my normal recording time of Sunday night here on ActionX for What's in the Tube's morning slot, which is normally the Rookie Season 3 episode reviews, but because of Super Bowl weekend, we were off the air for the Rookie. We will be back next week, but until then, I decided we're going to do another quick impressions. This week, if you clicked on the title, we're talking about Lost. Oh my God, was Lost one of those... It's another one of those hype shows that I think my expectations were correctly tempered for, because I heard the same thing over and over again. Like, it started off so great and then it ended so badly wrong or just disappointing. And for me, I was very curious on finally seeing Lost. I think I started seeing Lost in 2018, I want to say, when I finally picked up the first season on DVD for relatively cheap. And I think I didn't binge it, but I really got into the groove of the season. And it was it's just another one of those Game of Thrones type seasons where, like, yeah, a lot of people talked about it. And then finally I had the time and the space in my schedule. So I said, screw it, let's do it. And I think Lost could have been a very great series through and through for me had it not been for that final season. I'm being honest there. And also it did not help me considering the fact that, so after I purchased Lost, the complete 5th season, what was funny was that as I was about to buy the 6th season, now here's the thing, if you need to know about me, if you have not watched me on my DVD unboxings or my Lecho Talks, I have a budget. I budget myself very hard when it comes to buying DVDs, Funko Pops, Amiibo, Lightning Collection figures, anything that I'm interested in, I have budgeting limitations. And for DVDs, specifically TV shows, I normally try not to go over $20 on anything. I would only do it if it's finishing off a collection and I say, screw it, this is probably the easiest chance I will purchase this right here and now, so I will do it. And for Lost, the final season, it was, I believe, $50 at the only place I knew that they had a existing copy of. So with that being said, I was fairly disappointed by it, and I really held off on it. And eventually, once I started switching over to Amazon to purchasing my DVDs due to the pandemic, I very much viewed it as, yeah, this is still very expensive. I think Lost still is now $70 on Amazon, so it's even more online than in person. And it's not directly from Amazon, it's from another seller, which, don't get me wrong, I understand Amazon's a very reliable source majority of the time. I'm just not comfortable spending that much on an Amazon purchase for one DVD. I'd rather wait till it's in my hand. I trust the condition of it and I could put it in my collection safely. So as many of these quick impressions go, as once we started this last in fall, I purchased Hulu during the beginning of the pandemic. I watched a lot of shows, and last December I finally sat down. I finished Lost, the last season. It took me a little bit to get back into it, and then at long last, I finally got into it, and oh man, that last season, there were moments where it's like, this is the Lost I remember, and then there was also moments where, like, I don't understand what the fuck they're trying to do. And I apologize for my language, but I'm being honest here, like, I did not like much of the last season. I did not. Like, this will probably be the only quick impressions where, like, I will discuss spoilers, but I will let you know when spoilers happen. But until, again, let's get down to my actual impressions on the show itself, only starting from episode 1 onwards, where I think for me the premise of the show, which if you don't know, or you need a little bit of reminder, the plot focuses on this airline carrier, like the specific plane. They all had very interesting people in the middle of very... They all have their own thing going on, and I think this kind of resonates with me with the theme of everyone has their own story, and I think that's why originally this works so well as an ensemble piece that any one of these characters could have been the leads of their own spin-off shows or their own series, and Thankfully, in a very weird way, it was good that we didn't get that directive, because I feel like these characters have rich backgrounds and potential for storylines, but I think they would just run out of their steam in the first two seasons, in my opinion. But in an ensemble piece, it just works so well, and it also kind of proves the fact that you never know who's going to be a major part of your life, because honestly, you look at this cast of people, this group of people, easily you can tell, like, yeah, none of these guys are friends. It's just impossible for them to all be friends. And I I would not be surprised. Hell, even some people say that about my group of friends, and even though, like, I'm very grateful for that, I'm very grateful for my friends. Like, yeah, I mean, we're a very diverse group of people. Same thing with this show. So the whole theme of this, mystical island, it's like it's uncharted. No one knows it exists, and now these people are trapped there with very limited supply, and they just ended up getting into this bigger mystery about the island, where a good chunk of the people just want to get off the island and get back home, and then there's a specific other group of the people that are, like, interested in the lore and the mythology, and they want to know what's up with this island because of their general curiosity. For me personally, I'm being very hypothetical here. If I was in the show, in terms of, like, in this situation, I would mostly focus on getting the hell off this island. I would not give a damn about this island's lore or anything. Like, I just want to get off it, because once I get off, I am never coming back here ever. And I'm being completely honest on that. So I think that was the draw of the show, because, like, you had so many relatable characters. For me, I think the character that I love the most, and this could just be biased because I watched How I Met Your Mother before this, but I love Jorge Garcia's Hugo. Hurley. Was it Hugo? Yeah, Hurley. Was it Hurley or Hurley Hugo? I think it was either one of the two. Like, I think it's both, but I think that's his nickname. But I love that character so much. He's just so relatable to me. And I understand there's, like, a lot of other characters that anyone could relate to. Jack, to Kate, to Locke, to Sawyer, to Sanjeet, I believe, is it, like, to Sand, to I'm trying to remember all the characters. I'm trying to name them off as I go, but, like, you can relate to anyone on this cast, and that's a big drawing point, and that's why it was so successful in its beginning run, because all we wanted to do was, like, we were just curious about, like, will these characters ever get off the island, and what island are they even onto? So that was the draw in, and I was honestly, I think they did so well with the mythology up until, like, I think once we started splitting off in season 4, I believe, which is when we started splitting up. I think that's when you started getting on shaky ground with the storytelling, because, like, it's an island. There's only a very specific amount of things you can do on an island before you eventually start stretching it out too much. I feel like had Lost got shaved the season of filler episodes, I think it would have been a very stronger season. But I think it was just another case of, this show is way too successful. Let's stretch this out. Let's milk this out as long as we can. But then you start getting into, we're beginning to deter from what we knew was the core and the reason why people like this show, to just, let's just invent new things that would not even make sense in the beginning in terms of, like, the feel of the show, for the sake of continuing the show longer than it needed to go. Where I think things started to strain in season 5, when I originally was doing my stretch of watching it, was when I was being more consistent. Then going into the last season finally, and then just struggling to understand this brand new way of trying to tell this story and trying to keep it fresh and organic, did not work, in my opinion. And then when we got to that end, it's like, I was left unsatisfied. I was not happy. And that's the problem when you get to this point. Like, it is so hard once you start deviating away from the storyline, is you start to get to that point where it's like, nothing you can do is going to make me change my opinion. Like, you're going to have to pull a miracle for me to, like, turn a 180, or not a 180 or a 90 degree or something in that direction. Like, something to make me start thinking of this as a good season through and through, regardless of the ups and downs. Where I would consider Walking Dead still a good series, Where had you came to me at the end of season 8, where it's like, nah, no, this is starting to get like mediocre. Now I think there's more good than bad, so now it's just labeled as good. Lost, I always will look at as a very mixed bag because the first 4 were so solid. The 5th was shaky, and the 6th was like, for me, very on. I think it's my least favorite season. It is my least favorite season, and it's not the worst season of television I've ever seen, but I do believe it's very in the bottom of the list. And now here it is. I don't know when we're gonna do an every Lost season reviewed because I don't know a single person. Well, I know one person, but she's not. I don't think she's camera savvy, so I don't think she's gonna be able to be my co-host on that. But I don't have any plans on doing a Lost review anytime soon. So I want to get this out there while this thought is still in my head instead of like a year down the line where I probably would forget everything I was gonna say. So this is spoilers. Usually on Quick Impressions, we would not spoil anything, but because of the very severity of my current want to talk about this, and this is like the closest thing I'm ever going to get to it, be warned, this is spoilers. Cut to the very end of the video. I will put a time code right here if you want to just skip to like the very end and just hear my usual ending rigmarole. So yeah, here we go. I think the Flash Sideways were very... I appreciated it, but I also didn't like it as well. At the end of the day, it made no sense. I feel like the Flash Sideways were the biggest sore thumb out of season 6 for me. Because the thing is that season 6 was always going into, for us, the fans, like, it is the last season. We're going to end this. And with any last season of a show, you want to bring back as many characters from the, like, especially when you're, like, either long running or you're popular or both, you want to bring back as many characters as you can. The problem is that with Lost specifically, it is very hard to kind of make it work organically in the main timeline to bring these characters that passed away or died or something from past seasons who died already to come back. It's very difficult, and I think they already like made an exception with Locke because like, okay, well, Locke is dead, but this other Locke played by Terry O'Quinn is the Man in Black. So even though he sounds like Locke, he looks like Locke, he's not Locke. So I was like, okay, yeah, but you can't do that for every character. Like, that makes sense. And then you have the Flash Sideways, as they call it, which is like another timeline that's happening, and we're just getting like brief flashpoints into it so that it's not technically an alternate timeline because it's not a show, it's not a season of episodes. Well, of direct episode. We just get moments from those when it like kind of organically makes sense into whatever's going on in the real timeline. At first, I thought it was an interesting concept because, like, okay, yeah, you can start playing around with this idea. It's kind of becomes a what if. Like, what if these characters never head to the island? What if the plane never crashed? What if that didn't happen? The only issue you get into is that, for me personally, I would have loved to see it. And some of these did happen. It was just like everything was changed around. Where for me, my like. Had it been everything's the same up to the plane crash, what do their lives look like? And I feel like the Kate storyline, Jack mostly, I believe not Sawyer, but I think So I think mostly Jack and Kate. I feel like those would have been the only two that I would have loved to see continue like that with everyone else. Like. Mostly their original timelines remained intact, and now we're just seeing like what would things would have been like had they not met everyone else or been stuck on an island. I feel like that was the very most interesting part, but they changed everyone just because I guess it would have gotten boring to just like figure it out and like let's give these characters new edges and new directions and new twists. And I understand that. I get that. I understand why the writers would do that, but the problem is that for me, I just didn't feel interested in it. I just did not. Yeah, sure, some of them had better lives. Like Hugo was like freaking rich, and Sawyer was a detective banging women left and right. Locke had a loving wife. Like those were like happy ending moments. But I think the main reason I was attracted to these characters in the beginning, in the first 4 seasons, 4.5, 5, was their flaws, their character journeys before they got to the island. Like their lives were going mostly downhill, and then the island kind of like gave them another chance to like do something else and, gave them purpose again and have a chance to start anew briefly. I feel like that was the main draw for me as, I was watching Lost and then going into season 6. I was like, I want these characters to be happy, but at the same time, you're kind of taking away what made them their characters before, in my current opinion on it. That's kind of how I feel about it. And then once you start getting to the end, and also another thing is that I understand, like, yeah, it's obviously a call to destiny. Like, all these characters were meant to find each other. They were meant to, like, be in each other's lives. I get that, because they just constantly kept running into each other from the island no matter what. But then you come towards the end of things, of the end of the season, when they started explaining the Flash sideways. It's like, it's not really an alternate timeline. It kind of is, but in reality, it's just the afterlife in a way. Which, honestly, that concept never made sense to me, since it seemed like the characters in the afterlife, like, let's call it, would only remember their previous lives if they died. So, or at least when those characters suddenly, like, they've been dead for a while, but then they have that, like, that Inception like moment, like that thing to, like, draw them back in and, like, have their old lives, like, their memories start flooding back, that sort of thing. I feel like that was the thing that they used to bring them back. But then the problem is that you get characters that are still alive in the present time. And then again, you could always say, like, oh, they did die in the present timeline, we just never saw it, which then kind of hinders the main timeline, because my issue was that so all they did throughout the 6 seasons, I mean, I know they kind of stopped something bad from happening, but, like, they didn't even live to see it. And sure, you can say, well, that was the heroic sacrifice, but it's like some of them had normal lives again for at least a few years, and then they gave it all back up just to, like, come back to the island. And then even all that came to shambles. So basically everything, like, I understand, like, yeah, they got a happy ending someone, because, like, the end of the series was definitely, like, everyone got to be reunited with each other. Everyone was happy again. But the only issue that I had was that, and again, this could just be wonky timeline business, but at the end of the series, like, I think the only characters that we know for sure were alive were Hugo and, what was his last? What was the character's name? Linus. Those were the only 2 characters that we knew that survived the entire events of the series that we got to see afterwards. But then their afterlife cells suddenly remembered it. Now, you could say it's supernatural rules where it's like, oh, technically time is very different. Like, maybe a year in the real world is like only a minute there. It could be. I'm not sure. I'm not saying it is, because honestly, it just makes you think more and ponder more. Like, we don't even have a concrete answer. And I understand, like, some TV shows are never meant to give you the concrete answer. It's always meant to be abstract and to be interpreted by the viewer. I get that. But then there's certain points where you just cross that line. It's like, no, you just want it to be abstract, because even you don't know how it all makes sense, or, it works out in the end. I honestly, I don't mind things being abstract or open-ended, or being left open, or being left to my interpretation. I don't mind that at all. I've watched plenty of shows that, like, yeah, I can imagine what happened next. Hopefully maybe someday down the line, the creator will make a canon expansion, or, like, the epilogue, or, like, a continuation. I hope. And sometime maybe, like, you know what, maybe it's best to, like, leave it alone and just never give that concrete answer. I'm fine with that. But then with Lost, it's like, I don't know, man. I did not like the Flash sideways at all. I did not like the afterlife. I didn't like it. I just did not. I could not get behind it. And yeah, sure, hate me for your one. Like, oh, well, they got their happy ending. You're hating their happy endings. Like, I don't think this show was meant to give these characters a happy ending. I think they were just meant to respect the journey. And I feel like this show would have been much better off if we just focused on the main timeline. Like, let's just cut the season in half, give us 9 episodes, and just give us a straight run of the main timeline. We didn't need the Flash sideways. They were just a way to keep pandering the show, as well as to give characters from the past to come back. I understand that. I get that. I was not one to get behind it. And I don't know if there's anyone else that agrees with me or is against me. It is my opinion, though. It is my thoughts. But I just generally, that was like kind of like the main reason I could not get behind on the last season of Lost, and that really hurts me, my overall impressions of Lost in general. And yes, I know it's like, oh, it's a very minor thing, or it's something that happens in one season. It doesn't matter. One season or one part of a season can really put down a show a lot, because it just has that weighing in factor. Like Flash for me, like The Flash and from CW, like I thought that was a really great show for the first 3 seasons. Then season 4 happened, and then season 5, I'm like, now it's just like, it can be good, it can be bad, and before it was just always great. So even no matter what happens, something will always affect the quality of the show. So anyway, that's it for the Lost spoilers. That's it. I know I usually would talk about characters, but I'm sorry, my rambling on the last season kind of, and this is a quick impression, so like, hopefully you will see Lost at your own discretion, and I would suggest stopping at season 4 or season 5, around there. Just don't watch season 6. I know it's kind of weird to say, and I usually never say that, but I don't know, season 6 will warp your brain out for a bit, so what are you going to do? I think that's going to do it for me. So overall, I would recommend Lost at a very decent recommendation level. I would still suggest watch it at your discretion, and if you want to finish it, get ready to like get your mind scratched a lot, because it's going to give you those pains. I would recommend it to a certain extent, maybe like 1.5 out of my usual recommendation scale. And yeah, so there you go. You can find Lost all 6 seasons on Hulu right now. You can also buy them on DVD if you have the money to buy them and find them. And I think that's going to do it for me. So if you're unaware, this has been a quick impressions from what's on the tube. Usually we do this on camera. Next episode of the overall show, we'll be back on camera. I promise you that. Stuff happens, you know. Let me know in the comments below what you thought of Lost. Do you agree with me on my last season comments? Do you disagree with me? Or is there something else about Lost you want to talk to me about? I'm always open in the comments below for conversation. So, yeah, go down there. But again, this has been a What's in the Tube quick impression. If you want to know what we're doing overall on What's in the Tube, besides these quick impressions, we do Nancy Drew season 2 episode reviews each and every Thursday mornings after a brand new episode on Wednesday nights on the CW, and free the next day on the CW app and the CW.com. We also do Walker episode reviews each and every Friday morning after a brand new episode on Thursday nights on the CW, and free the next day on the CW app and the CW.com. Usually on the Monday time slots, we would be doing the Rookie season 3 episode reviews on Monday mornings after a brand new episode on Sunday nights on ABC, and then on Hulu the next day. But since we were on a little bit of a break because of Super Bowl and just normal hiatus stuff, we will be back next week on our regularly scheduled broadcast of the Rookie season 3. Can't wait to finally get back into it. But I did really enjoy talking about Smallville and Lost these past 2 weeks. I had a lot to say about those shows in a very quick burst sort of way. Don't worry, I'm still watching a lot of shows on the side, so if you like me just talking about like random shows, there's still plenty to come. I think we have a Nancy Drew and Walker mini break coming up in a couple weeks, so we'll be back. We'll be back if you want to stay tuned for us there. But again, if you're unaware, this has been What's in the Tube from ActionX. If you want to see more of What's in the Tube, please subscribe to ActionX on youtube.com/ActionX. Ring the bell for notification when our next What's in the Tube episode is live, which is usually every Monday, Thursday, and Friday mornings. Follow us on social media if you want to be up to date on our videos, as well as follow us on Twitch, which we will be streaming there once I fix my Elgato or get a new one, whatever comes first. Like, favorite, share this quick impressions if you want to. It is for free, but it does help us out, get us out there to people who have yet to discover us, and to help grow us as a channel. And yeah, again, thank you so much for watching. If you are a Lost fan, hopefully sometime down the future we will do a Lost season review, every season review, hopefully at some point. But that is very far flung in the future. But if you did enjoy me talking about TV shows, please subscribe. I talk about a lot of TV shows each and every week, 3 times a week. So stay tuned for more on that. But again, thank you so much for watching. Be safe out there. Be good to each other. And peace out.